Alright, I just want to show you a few tips and tricks on replacing the centre bearing, or in general removing the propeller shaft in this 230E Mercedes-Benz W123 model. So there's a lot of videos out there that show you how to do the job in general, but what they all forgot to tell you was that on the end of your diff is this little shaft that sticks out. I suppose it stops the tail shaft from flying off if the flex disc fails. Now, once you loosen the nut for your tail shaft over here, the rear part of the tail shaft will slide backwards and forwards, but it won't slide backwards, it won't slide forwards enough that it clears this shaft. And the only way I've found to be able to get it off is you actually have to lower the diff. And that means removing the 4 bolts underneath the diff that holds it up and just putting a jack underneath it to lower it. So see how far I've had to drop that? Yeah. Now another thing, some people will draw marks on the front and rear tail shaft pieces, but after a certain year model, I think it was 1982, someone was saying, is they actually Mercedes-Benz marked them for us. Now I don't know if you can see it there, but on this shaft there is a little notch or a little sort of raised bump right where the flat section of that sort of, I guess, where you'd put the spanner on. Can you see that right there? That matches up with, on the tail shaft, these 2 lines on the universal joint. So you put that notch between those 2 and your splines will line up beautifully. Okay, another tip. Your flex disc bolts, if they're M10 bolts, you tighten them to 45 Newton meters, and if they're M12, you tighten it, I think it's to 60 Newton meters. What else have we got? Okay, so you can get away with just one spanner to undo that flare nut, or whatever the nut is that screws on the end of this. So because I couldn't be bothered buying 2 spanners, I just bought one, which was this here. So I used the 46mm side, and all I did was I got a helper to engage and release the rear emergency brake so that I could loosen the nut, spin the tail shaft a bit, loosen the nut a bit more, rinse and repeat, releasing and engaging the emergency brake until it loosened fully. And that seemed to work pretty well. You can remove the tail shaft without having to remove any of the emergency brake like connections and levers and that. You don't have to remove any of the exhaust system either. That can all stay in there. And yeah, basically now I've taken off the old bearing, put the new one on. Make sure you use SGF branded flex discs, and sometimes the Febby Bilstein ones will be SGF. Just check to make sure with the seller that they are, and you should be sweet. So let's see how we go. 2 more things. Number 1, all I've done to jack the car up is I jacked up one wheel very slightly, and I've chocked it with bits of wood and multiple jack stands because I'm paranoid about the car falling on me, and I've just got it on ramps at the front. That's all I've done. So because I've got one wheel jacked up, that means I can spin the diff freely, and yeah, I don't have to jack up both off the bottom. Alright, what else? When I was talking about those notches on the tail shaft for the lines, for the splines to line up, well, it's more so for the balancing of these tail shafts to match both halves. See, they've got little weights welded on them. They'll do that on both the front and the rear. So that's why you have to line up those little notches just so it's balanced the same way it was from the factory. And if I find anything else upon reassembly, I'll let you know.